Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into something really fundamental. Who actually runs your town in Connecticut? It's a story about this massive power shift, from the state calling all the shots to local communities having real control. And it all boils down to this one crucial concept: home rule.
So, let's ask the big question. Who really controls your town? Is it the state, or is it your local government? You might think the answer's simple, but it's actually not. It's buried in this dramatic legal revolution that a lot of folks just don't know about. A change that completely flipped the script on the power dynamic between Hartford and your hometown.
Okay, so this whole thing really comes down to a tale of two very different competing rules. All right, on one side, you've got this thing called Dillon's rule. Think of it like this. The state is the king, and the towns, well, they're just subjects. They do what they're told. But on the other side, you have home rule, and this is a game changer. Because here, a town's power isn't just a gift from the state, it's actually baked right into the Constitution.
So to really wrap our heads around why this is such a big deal, we need to take a step back in time. Let's look at what it was like when towns were, believe it or not, treated as just creatures of the state.
Yeah, before 1957, Connecticut was all about Dillon's rule. And they had another name for it, the creature theory. I mean, that name says it all, right? The law literally saw towns as nothing more than creatures created by the state with no real power of their own.
And just imagine what that meant in practice. Your town wants to solve a simple local problem, maybe a traffic light or a zoning tweak? Nope, couldn't do it. Your local leaders literally had to go cap in hand to Hartford to beg the state legislature for permission, for everything.
So this wasn't just some abstract legal idea. It created a system that was an absolute mess. It was so inefficient. You had local governments that were basically paralyzed, unable to act. And meanwhile, the state legislator in Hartford was just drowning in this endless flood of requests for special acts to solve tiny local issues.
So you have this completely broken system, and eventually Connecticut's leaders just said, enough is enough. Something had to change, and not just a small fix. It was time for a full-blown constitutional revolution.
And listen, this wasn't just some small adjustment. The commentary from the time uses a really powerful word, departure. It was a deliberate, conscious choice to completely walk away from that old system and build something totally new, a system built from the ground up on the idea of local power. And you can actually see this shift happen in a few key steps. It started in 1957 with the Home Rule Act, which kind of got the ball rolling. But the real knockout punch, the most important step, was in 1965. That's when they cemented this whole idea right into the state constitution as Article 10th.
And you have to understand, this wasn't just about making government run smoother. No, this was a structural change. It was about building a constitutional wall around towns to protect them from what the leaders at the time called undesirable interference from the state. It was all about reestablishing and protecting local power once and for all.
Okay, so that's the history. But what does this revolution mean for Connecticut towns today? Let's jump ahead and look at the current rulebook.
This sentence you see here, this is everything. It's the heart of home rule. It takes Dillon's rule and just turns it completely upside down. What it's saying is, if there's any question, any doubt at all about who has the authority, the state or the town, the tie goes to the town. The doubt has to be resolved in favor of local control.
I mean, think about how profound that is. The old way was the state has all the power, unless it specifically gives a little piece away. But under home rule, the default setting is now the complete opposite. We assume the town has the power over its own local business.
And don't think this is just some old dusty idea from the 60s. No way. Just a few years ago, in 2018, the Connecticut Supreme Court looked at this again and doubled down. They ruled that state laws have to yield, that's their word, to a town's own charter when it comes to local concerns. So why are we talking about all this history? Because it matters right now. This isn't just an academic exercise. This principle is at the very center of debates and legislative battles that are happening today, anytime the state even thinks about passing laws that might step on the toes of local government.
Let's take a real-world example. Say the state proposes a bill to centralize zoning authority. Well, that's a direct challenge to home rule. A bill like that might try to change the structure of your local commissions or just plain override your town's own powers. It could try to dictate exactly how you do things, and that is precisely the kind of overreach that Article 10th was written to stop.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. The Constitution is crystal clear. The state is prohibited from passing special laws that dictate how your town is organized or governed.
That power was taken from Hartford and given to the towns, deliberately, permanently.
So let's boil this all down. When you look at the legal history, a few things are just undeniable. 1. Home rule isn't a theory or a nice idea. It is the law. 2. Connecticut made a very intentional choice to ditch Dillon's rule for good. And 3. When there's a gray area, local power is supposed to be interpreted broadly. The benefit of the doubt always goes to the town.
So what's the bottom line in all of this? It's that Connecticut towns are not creatures of the state. They're not puppets. They are constitutional governments with real, sovereign authority over their own affairs. They have rights. They have powers. And those powers are meant to be defended.
Look, this history isn't just for lawyers and dusty old books. It's a powerful tool. It's for you, for residents, for your local elected officials, for anyone serving on a town commission. It's the basis for understanding and protecting the very foundation of local control. The Constitution says your town has these sovereign rights, so the real question, the one that matters today is, who's going to stand up and defend them?